prediction. I don't want to share it. But I don't think that anyone who's going to come watch us wants to watch us tit and tat for 25 minutes. I think it's going to be violent, and ideally, obviously, don't want it to go to 5. I want to finish it early, however that is. So yeah, it's going to be violent, and hopefully for me and hopefully for the crowd, we'll see an early stoppage.
Oh! First of all, introducing our challenger.
Coming out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in, and he does. It's all over. Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me here on another edition of Eternal Insiders. We are being joined today by one half of the flyweight title main event for Eternal 84 coming up at the Liberty Hall in Sydney, New South Wales. Please join me in welcoming in for the very first time on the program, Jacinta, the Juggernaut Austin. Jacinta, thank you for joining me here. First things first, Juggernaut by name, Juggernaut by nature. Very high strength of schedule over the last few years from a number of different disciplines for yourself. But the most recent thing I saw of you on social media a few short days ago, after a recent fight of yours, covered in head to toe in blood, a couple of shiners in your eye, which you're looking fantastic, by the way, from only having that from a sort of a couple of weeks ago, looking good there. Can you tell us a little bit about that recent win over in Germany? I haven't got to see it myself, but we've got a lot of momentum coming into this fight. That's the first thing that fans need to know about yourself. Jacinta's coming in hot for this title fight, a big-time win. She doesn't mind the bloody side of the game. In fact, she seems to relish in it. So, Jacinta, give us some perspective on that win that you're coming off, and what compelled you to put out that post of yourself in that state?
The fight was going into that fight, I kind of knew, especially off the one prior, that I had to really make a statement with my performance to get myself back to where I want to be. So I knew that, like, in order to grab the attention, I had to make it super violent, or get a nice finish or something. And yeah, violence was the way we went. I just had a lot of intention in that fight to make a statement and prove a bit of a point, especially over that particular opponent because of her level of experience and the promotion she's been a part of. So yeah, just wanted to kind of show what I can do to someone of that caliber.
No, we can only sort of imagine. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that, of course, have seen it around the world. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I mean, can you give us some perspective? How much of that blood was hers? How much of it was yours? What was going on there in terms of the ratio there? Because you were covered in it.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I bled at all.
It was all hers.
Yeah, I had a nice shiner. But as far as the blood, no, that was all hers.
Yeah, you should see the other guy, right? That's what's going on.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, you are obviously no stranger to fighting overseas, even from sort of your earlier days, competing when you were younger, your amateur levels and that sort of thing, competing in Europe, you fought in Japan, you fought in the Middle East and that sort of thing. Obviously, recently you fought over in Germany. What's sort of been the appeal for you going over to that sort of part of the world? Is it mostly a matter of opportunity to get some fights?
Yeah, opportunity and experience. I think it's all gonna pay off for me eventually, is all the opportunities that I've said yes to, where maybe sometimes it wasn't the best decision to say yes, or maybe I was slightly out of my league, but I think in the long term it's really going to pay off for me. And we all know there's not that many girls in Australia, so yeah, if you want to get that kind of world experience, you've got to get yourself out there, and yeah, I think that's what we've done.
No, you certainly got to stay active, and you're absolutely right. Not a ton of opportunities in terms of the girls here in this country, but we do have a big-time title fight coming up at Eternal 84, which we're going to talk about in due time. But, I mean, can you just talk a bit about, as well, for the fans that are new to you, and you've got plenty of fans, certainly, but for those people who be tuning in and seeing you for the first time, you first got into martial arts, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, to get into the fitness side of things or to get in some better shape. Your coaches saw something in you in terms of your technique and said, hey, why don't we make this thing? How about a fight? Can you talk a little bit about your journey and how you went from just training to get into shape into becoming a competitor? Where did that sort of change for you?
Yeah, I don't even think it was so much the technique that they saw, because to be honest with you, I was pretty rough back then.
Okay.
not so great. Yeah, I think it was more the drive and the passion they saw for it, and yeah, I just had a real commitment to winning. So however I got that done, I think they could see, more kind of like the determination and drive. And then I picked up a bit of better technique as I went along. But yeah, it started off for me as when you leave school and stuff, you lose that like routine of the sport that you do. You get out into the working world and you lose a bit of that. So martial arts was kind of my way back to structure and routine.
Sure. Now, I think I saw online something recently that, maybe going back about 9 months ago, you said you took a little bit of time off from your busy schedule. You said you wanted to, develop your game a little bit more, work on some technique. Was there anything specifically that you can recall that you were trying to work on? We know what you're like as a striker. You're coming in as a, former kickboxer, competed in Muay Thai. Was there specific areas of your game in MMA that you were trying to work on?
I think just more than anything, just my fight IQ. I can do most of the like things that are asked of me, but knowing when to do them, when and where to do them, and how to time things, and just learning how to strategize a bit better, and obviously brush up on my grappling. Like that's only something I really started relatively recently in compared to striking. So yeah, I've got big leaps to make. I feel like I've made big leaps in my grappling, but I've still got big leaps to make with that as well.
I mean, we've got to keep in mind, right? Like you've been, competing in martial arts in general and a couple of those sort of different codes and disciplines for a few years, but mixed martial arts as a professional, 3 years, I think you've been competing professionally back in 2021, I think is when you started.
Yeah, 3 years.
True. Now, as far as we talked about, what your coaches sort of saw in you in terms of your drive and everything like that, you currently train out of Karaoke MMA. Is that where you first got your start? Was it those coaches that first saw something in you? Was there a change there, or has this been your team the whole time?
No, so I started kickboxing when I started like 9 years ago or something. I was out, I don't know if you know Penrith Way. I was out Penrith Way. That's where I was raised. So I was just kickboxing at a local gym there. But we used to take day trips out this way to Karaoke MMA for the sparring. They had a lot of smaller guys and girls there for me to kickbox with. So yeah, I used to make the trip like once a week for rounds. And then eventually, that transitioned to me moving that way and picking up MMA, moving this way and picking up MMA.
And what sort of influences, Alex Karaoke, your coach, what sort of influence has he been on for you for your career so far and the success you've had?
Yeah. He's kind of like everything I needed to take this full time and to make it a career. It was very kind of casual before, in a casual gym, casual coaching, casual partners. But Alex added the like career management side to it, structure, routine, and having that coach to watch me kind of every session and develop me and pick things that I specifically need for MMA. So yeah, joining with Karaoke and Alex made it, put your foot down. This is a proper professional career now.
Does that, with the side from Alex, does that extend in any way to sort of the social media side of things too? Because I mean, it's kind of a spectrum, right, with people in mixed martial arts, and that you got people that you don't hear, peep from in terms of the social media side of things. You, on the other hand, are very good at promoting yourself, quite regularly, quite heavily. Is that something that you were just sort of naturally kind of into as far as the promotion side of things goes? Like, you're, I guess, putting yourself out there for more perspectives, not just the fight side of things, but also making sure that you're well sort of seen on social media. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think most of my stuff is fight related, and I'm pretty obsessed with fights, so it just happens naturally.
Just natural, just comes. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm a fighter. Let's put it out there, show the world what I'm about.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now we touched at the top of the conversation that you've competed in a few different things. You box. You've had a professional boxing match which you had a win in a little while ago. I think back in 2021 or 2022. You went back and competed in Japan for a kickboxing pro match, which you had a win on, which you had a win in. What's sort of been, I guess, your your perspective and your sort of thought process between why you were sort of trying a few different things as far as the boxing, as far as the kickboxing, as far as the Muay Thai? Was it specifically just to get reps in, competitively, or were you on a bit of a journey of finding out what you kind of wanted to do?
No, I always knew as soon as I had my MMA debut, I knew that I wanted MMA. It used to be my dream to be a K1 fighter. So when the K1 opportunity came up and I didn't have any MMA fights, it was like, why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you go versus like one of the best strikers and develop your striking a little bit more? But MMA since I started MMA has been what I want. But if there's opportunity to further my skills and get more experience on those big stages as well, with those big audiences overseas, being the B side, it's all good experience for me. And just, getting the win from it is kind of even better. So.
Okay, so the focus is, and going forward, it has been for a long time and is going forward, is on mixed martial arts solely. This is what you want to do in terms of going forward professionally. It's mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously we look ahead to this big time title fight. It is the first time that the Eternal MMA organization has put on a title fight in the women's flyweight ranks. Of course, yourself versus Amena Hadaya, two of the top ranked. Yourself, if you look at Tapology rankings, yourself is the current top ranked flyweight in the country at the moment. You're coming off, obviously, just this last win that we talked about very recently back in March. So a very quick turnaround in terms of finding out about this opportunity. Can you tell us a little bit about this fight coming together, when you first found out about it, and ultimately saying yes to coming together for this title fight versus Amena Hadaya at Eternal 84?
So I finished up the last fight. Before that, I'd had 6 months between fights, which for me is a bit too long.
It's a gap.
Longer than I'd like. I suppose it's just part of the game is when you're going to travel to Europe to fight all the time. The turnovers can be a bit slower. And I knew that I wanted to fight again straight away. So me and Alex sat down and just said do we want to wait another 3 months to go back to Europe, or is Sydney's Eternals in Sydney in 6 weeks now? This was the week we got back, so it was 8 weeks. And he just kind of sent a message and just to suss out what was available. They said they gave us Amina's name. We said yes, we want to fight straight away. It's right here in my backyard. This the first time in 2 years that I don't have to travel overseas and deal with the jet lag and stuff. I guess because like you said with the rankings on Tapology, they then made it a title fight. And it all just fell into place within, I think, the space of a day. It was very quick. But I found out about it the week that I'd gotten back from Germany.
I mean, this game moves so fast, right? I mean, take those opportunities certainly when you can. I mean, we just talk about, this fight being in Sydney, it lines up perfectly. Obviously, yourself fighting in New South Wales, Amina herself based in New South Wales, to come together for a women's flyweight title fight main event at the Liberty Hall in Sydney. Do you know much about that venue itself? Have you been there? Is that something you've sort of been to at all? Do you know anything about it? What can you tell us? I was there last year.
I haven't been there.
You haven't been there? What do you know of the venue?
I don't know anything of the venue.
It's a crazy good.
What I Googled
the
week I got the news. Yeah.
It's a fun little venue. Sort of marketed as a bit of a boutique venue, but it's sort of almost like a bit of a fight pit sort of style. It's small, but you've got the sort of the cage in the middle, everyone's standing around. And then you've got the stands, 4 sort of stands that go around where everyone's kind of looking down to the cage. It is a super cool atmosphere. I was there. I can't remember what the card was, but when the UFC was in Sydney last time, when Israel was here, and they had that card the night before, super cool experience there. So I think you got a lot to look forward to. But I mean, in terms of two girls from New South Wales, fighting in a main event, that is a very cool notion.
What was that? Sorry.
I'm just saying, 2 girls, from New South Wales, of course, yourself, fighting out of Sydney, Amina close to have you 2 guys in the main event, it's a very cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I always wanted to fight again with Eternal, and I always wanted the Eternal belt. And obviously that didn't work out back then when I wanted it, so I went overseas. But it's cool that I get to come back to Eternal and eventually get what I was after.
Well, I mean, yourself at the moment, as far as your professional career goes, 6-2 as a professional, but fighting for Eternal MMA, perfect record there, 3 from 3. Last competing, I believe, at Eternal 68 in a win against Nyreen Crowley. So happy hunting grounds here for you. And I'm sure, obviously, you're looking to make that 4 from 4 and put that title around your waist. What's your experience been like in the past for you fighting for Eternal?
Yeah, I loved fighting for Eternal. I would have done all my fights there if there wasn't such a lack of straw weights in the country. Obviously this one's at flyweight, but I normally fight at straw weight. So going over to Europe provided me endless opportunity of straw weight opponents. But I mean, if you're gonna switch around in the weight classes, it's got to be the right time, the right opponent, the right opportunity, and I think that Eternal have provided all those things with this fight. So it's gonna be fun.
Now, in terms of the right fight and the right opportunity, I mean, from a fan's perspective, right? I mean, this has just got a classic sort of written all over it. If we talk about your style And you can talk a little bit about this. Obviously, you come from that Muay Thai and kickboxing background. You said in the past that you prefer to sort of see yourself as a striker. We know Amina loves to strike. You know, we know she's a phenomenally good boxer and everything as well. So from our point of view, I mean, this is just on paper is just absolutely fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, what you've sort of seen from Amina as an opponent? Have you sort of followed her career in any way sort of closely, being, you know, one of the few flyweights we sort of have here? What do you think in terms of this matchup?
I think it's a really, really fun matchup. Like you said, on paper, very fun. We both spend a lot of time striking in our fights, so yeah, you'll probably see a lot of damage done over 5 rounds. I don't think most people know, but me and Amina have trained together maybe a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
Nothing recent. I'd say the last time would be over a year ago. So yeah, I've always followed her career because yeah, I like her a lot, and I follow pretty much all the girls in Australia. So yeah, I've watched all their fights. I've moved around a lot with Amina. Yeah, it's going to be a fun fight.
It's going to be a fun fight, and no doubt for yourself wanting to come away as the winner and put that eternal belt around your waist finally. But I mean, just in terms of, you know, what fans can expect from yourself, right? Because we're here to talk about you. Again, coming from that sort of kickboxing background and the Muay Thai background, you said after your last fight, you were looking to incorporate a lot of that Muay Thai style. I know you like to use the plum clinch and the knees and that sort of thing. You know, you sort of use that knee as a bit of a deterrent. Is that something that you kind of utilize in most of your MMA fights? Is that something you want to sort of keep using going forward? Like, this is a big strength for you.
Yeah, it's a big strength for me, and I think a lot of people that haven't actually spent the time training in Muay Thai or in the clinch or with the elbows have a tough time dealing with it. That's why I like to use it a lot in the cage. But yeah, I'm gonna show a big range of things, but that's always my comfort zone, and it's very destructive and very violent, and that's kind of how I like that's how I like to fight. So I feel like it's the most damage you can really put on someone with the knees and elbows and clench. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing a bit of everything, but I'm sure we'll see a bit of that at some point.
I was going to ask you about that in terms of like how you like to fight and sort of your style. I mean, for people that haven't sort of seen Jacinta Austin fight, I mean, you look at you two girls going against each other. Neither one of you likes to give an inch in terms of coming forward. You know, I mean, I've seen your fights. You know, I've had a look at, you know, through your recent ones and everything, and you're constantly coming forward. You're not afraid to sort of take a punch, but I mean, you're using the technique, you're using the power, the juggernaut by name, juggernaut by nature, right, sort of thing. So, I mean, to have two girls be coming, you know, to meet each other in the center of the cage, I mean, it's going to be absolute fireworks. Is that something you've always sort of had in you from a competitive standpoint? Was it something that was kind of coached into you, or, you know, is this just sort of, I guess, part of who you are in that, you know, you want to fight relentlessly, you want to come forward all times, like you want to not just get the win, you know, you want to do this in sort of devastating fashion?
Yeah, I think that's always, even if you look at my first like 10 kickboxing fights, I think that's kind of always how I've been. I hate losing. I hate losing more than probably I like winning. So yeah, when I'm in there, I just kind of do everything I can to push the pace and put as much damage as I can.
No, we've certainly seen that from the last post, right? I mean, as we said, just blood all over you from your opponent. So God knows what sort of state she's in. But, you know, it gives us so much more to look forward to as we come into this fight for Eternal 84. We don't want to look too far past that, but we just talked about, you know, obviously mixed martial arts is your focus going forward. What is this ultimately all leading to for you? Have you got a plan for what you sort of see yourself in? You know, if you look at the next sort of 5 years, like where is this sort of going to culminate for you in terms of what your, you know, view of your career is going to be?
I definitely have a plan. This fight is part of that plan for me. Getting the Eternal belt means a lot to a lot of organizations outside of Australia. It holds a lot of weight to have the Eternal belt, and I'm going to have it in a higher weight division than I'm supposed to fight in. So that's going to mean even more. Yeah, whether I'd like to maybe defend it or even get the strawweight belt as well. We'll see what happens. I think everything that happens is going to depend on the way this fight goes, which is why the outcome of this fight is so important. But yeah, ultimately, obviously, like I see myself in the UFC, and I think that this is just another box to tick to really reiterate that I'm the best in the country, pound for pound. And if anyone's going to go, it's got to be me.
No, I mean, so much more on the line than just the title, right? You know, big time career aspirations for yourself, and I'm sure for Amina as well. And we get to sort of reap the benefits of seeing how that all unfolds. I mean, if you look back to 2015, you know, can you sort of think that far back, you know, when you sort of got your start, you know, amateur kickboxing and everything, St. Mary's Band Club, right? You know, sort of back in the day, you know, can you picture what it was like for you back then and how you thought about competing and sort of, you know, thinking back to sort of where we are now? Is this where you thought you'd be at this sort of point in time, in the culmination of, you know, touching on some truly great things? You know, is that what you sort of had in mind for yourself way back when?
I wasn't really a man with a plan back then. I was just doing it because I enjoyed it. And I didn't, for the first few years, see myself in the cage or see myself in MMA. Saw myself in kickboxing, Muay Thai, maybe on the one championship scene or on the glory scene or something like that. But ever since I started MMA, and actually I didn't think I would ever be at the level where I could even speak about the UFC, really. And I think joining Carriot MMA and joining Alex has given me that life direction and given me a way to make something bigger of this. So yeah, ever since that debut, I started to really believe that I could make something bigger of this, and the goal hasn't changed since then.
Now, let's see how it all unfolds May 24th for Eternal 84 for the big time flyweight championship belt. Before I let you go, Jacinta, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, have you got an idea about how you think you would like to win this fight? Do you have any predictions? Are you someone who likes to give predictions? Or in a perfect world, how would you like to get this one done to put that belt around your waist finally?
I have a prediction. I don't want to share it. But I don't think that anyone who's going to come watch us wants to watch us tit and tat for 25 minutes. I think it's going to be violence, and I, you know, ideally, obviously, don't want it to go to 5. I want to finish it early, however that is. So yeah, it's going to be violent, and hopefully for me and hopefully for the crowd, we'll see an early stoppage. I'd like to show that I'm above the other girls in the country, and I think this is the opportunity to do it.
It's a big time opportunity to do it. No, as we said at the top of the show on paper, I mean, 2 girls like to come forward and take no steps back. So we get to reap the benefits and see how that all plays out. Hopefully for yourself, of course, Jacinta, putting that belt around your waist for the very first time and seeing what comes next in your career. So for fans, make sure you go and get your tickets at eternalmma.com. And if you are not going there live and in person, you're, of course, tuning in live and exclusive on UFC Fight Pass for that massive Eternal 84 card. Jacinta Austin versus Amena Hadaya for the flyweight title in the women's division for the very first time. Jacinta, thank you very much for joining me here on the show for the very first time. All the best at Eternal 84, and we will see you on the other side with that belt.
Great. Thanks for the chat.